outside.
Go videotaping.
We're having a beautiful breakfast out on Grandma's patio.
Hello.
And here in Albuquerque, we have a gorgeous view of really far away, the volcanoes.
Or if that's a bike trail or
Yeah, I think so. It's probably, I think when you rent those bikes.
yeah.
Here we are up on the Sandia ski lift. It's really pretty and windy and we're pretty cold. The sun's shining. There's my mom and Christina. And Christine is cold. She has her hood on. Wow.
That's loose, huh? Yeah, as soon as the sun goes down, man, that gets cold. It's nice now.
Look at these cool aspens, aren't they neat? I want to plant some of those on the land.
Yeah, and some pine.
Well, this is my mom, whom I love, Gudrun Charlotte Bandat, and I've been wanting to kind of capture some of her memories on tape for quite some time because I think it's a really interesting experience that not a whole lot of people have gone through. So, do you mind sharing some of your experiences? I know it was many years ago, but just
No, I don't mind sharing. Just ask me whatever you want.
from the best of your recollection. What's the earliest time you remember somebody mentioning anything about there being some kind of a war or conflict?
Well, I remember the very first thought I had of that was remembering my mom crying, and I would go over to her and say, "Don't cry, Mutti," and I would hug her. And I think people explained to me that the reason why she cried is because my father had died in the war. And he was very young. He was only 26, and my mother was 25, and I was only a year and a half, and my brother was 6 weeks old. And so that was the first time I didn't really understand anything about it, but they told me, your daddy died, and that's why mommy's crying. And then I remember my life as a little girl, my mother sending me to my grandmother's house with my brother or by myself, I don't remember, and them saying the sirens coming on in the middle of the night, and we had to go to the basement because they were going to bomb the neighborhood, they were going to bomb the city, and turns out we just went to the basement. So if the house would have gotten hit by a bomb, a direct hit, we would have all been killed. Because I guess there was no time to get to a fallout shelter, or there was none in the neighborhood. I really don't know. But I remember being down there and hearing the sounds of that bomb coming towards us, and I just remember that high squealing, like, and it would come closer and closer and closer. Now the adults probably were really freaked out because they knew that any minute now they could be dead. Now I was only about 3 or 4, then 3 maybe, and it never hit us direct. And I remember the day after that event, my grandmother had like a window box, kneeling in the window box and looking out the window, and they were taking this huge bomb that had not exploded out of the house across the street. Now, I don't know why they did that. With us still in the house, they should have evacuated the whole neighborhood and everything. But I was in the window box. If that bomb would have gone off, we would have all been decimated. But I was in the window box watching that bomb, and that bomb, I don't know, I was a little kid. It seemed like a whole house long. It seemed like as big as a house. Not tall like a house, but long as a house. And it was very long and skinny and silver. And it had like a tail in the back. And they put it on a really huge truck. They covered the whole truck. And they had the whole street. They had hay, straw, like this high in the street. And they were driving it like this.
Oh, God.
On the straw. I don't know why they didn't evacuate the neighborhood. I mean, if that thing would have gone off.
You guys all sitting around watching this?
Yeah, I was sitting in the window box watching that while the bomb was driving away. And that's kind of what I remember. And then I remember the war. I remember my mother then was a widow for like 3 years, 2 years, 3 years, and she had a boyfriend, and he was in the armed forces also. He came to visit us in his uniform, and we were on rations, so we were already really didn't get much food. And he had the people in the armed forces used to have contacts, so he used to come in and pick up his army uniform, and he had like sausages wrapped 3 times around his waist, because sausages are usually connected with they make the sausage like this, boing boing boing. So nowadays we get it in little plastic cases, so it's not the original, but they used to have them kind of connected, and he'd wind it 3 times around his waist and put his uniform over it and bring it to my mother, so we would have some food. I remember that made an impression on me. See, usually you don't remember things under 5.
Right.
You only remember things that are very funny and really make you laugh, or things that are very scary. That's what you remember from under 5. I remember things from the time I was 1.5 years.
Yeah.
So I had I had terrible nightmares most of the time when I was a child.
And you think it was because of the war?
Screaming in the middle of the night, huh?
You think it was because of the war and all the stress that was going on?
I don't know. I don't really know if it was of the war or my mother being so stressed, or just everything being so stressed. I really don't know.
So what was your mom and dad's name, and just tell me...
Okay. My mother's name was Charlotte Amalie Mantwolf. And we had kind of a thing in our family where the women would get their own name and then take the mother's first name as the middle name. So my mother was called Amalie after her mother. And she married my father, and he was Kurt Heinrich, and I think he had like 3 or 4 other middle names. Because in Germany, you would call the child, all the middle names were all the godfathers. And for a boy, you would pick pick men godfathers, and for girls you would pick godmothers. Interesting, very different. And you could have like 4 or 5 of them. So he had Kurt Christian Heinrich. I mean, he had like 4 or 5 different middle names. And his last name was Leier, and it was spelled Leier. So then when I was born, my name was Gudrun, and then I got my mother's name, Charlotte, and then I was Leier, which later when I came to the United States I called myself Lear, because it has such a negative connotation for that name in this country. But
it's actually an instrument, a Hebrew instrument,
a Hebrew
much
instrument,
like the guitar, right?
But it was spelled a little different. I think the Lyre was Lyre
right.
in real life, in Hebrew, but our name was changed into something, everybody has their own change of something. I don't know how the name came.
So they met when they were how old?
My parents met when they were both 16. They were taking stenography class in night school, and so they met each other.
Oh.
And they also met the person who became my stepfather later on in life, also was part of that group. So they had a whole group of friends, and my mother, my father, and my stepfather, all 3 were in that group of friends. And they met each other at that time. They were very, very young. And my mother's father owned a bar, and my father's father was some high official in the city government. They were very well off. They had a maid, and they had a gorgeous, gorgeous, fancy apartment, and everything was very fancy. And my mother was not considered
worthy,
up to par for my father, because he was the oldest son, and she was a dental assistant. She worked for a dentist once she was out of high school, and she was not considered good enough for him. So my grandfather disowned my father when he got married to my mother. They didn't come to the wedding, neither my grandmother nor my grandfather, or I don't know about the brothers. My aunt came to the wedding because my father's sister was Aunt Erna, and she was very sweet. She loved my parents, so she came to the wedding, but both the father and mother of my fathers did not come, and they didn't talk to them for years. As a matter of fact, my mother, when I was born already and I was a baby, my mother drove me in a baby carriage in the street, and my grandfather had never seen me. And he came towards her on the same side of the street, but when he saw her with the baby carriage, he crossed the street and continued walking on that side, and didn't even bother to look at the baby. This was his first grandchild. So he was a very stubborn old man, and everybody was afraid of him in that family. Everybody was very intimidated.
And what was his name?
I don't remember.
But his last name was Liar.
Yeah, his last name was Liar, but I don't remember his name. His name was Opa.
Jeez, Grandpa.
Yeah, we called everybody Opa and Oma. But I remember when later on, just to tell about one other story about him, which I didn't see him very often, never, because he cut us off, and then the war started, and we had to leave the city. So later on in life, when I was about 5 or 6, my mother visited my father's parents, and that was in the Russian zone in Germany. And I remember visiting them, and my Aunt Erna lived with them, and I came to visit, and my grandfather had a crew cut. He always had a crew cut. By this time his hair was already gray. And I kept watching him and looking at him, and finally I said, "Opa, can I touch your hair?" And he said, "Sure." And I went and I touched his hair, and I said, "Ooh, it's soft." I always thought it would feel like bristles. And my Aunt Erna later on said to me, "Nobody, since my grandfather is about 15, has ever touched that man's hair. You have quite a lot of guts."
Wow.
Well, I wasn't intimidated
So
by
he
him.
was
I was
really
only a little
intimidated.
kid. I wasn't scared of him. What do I know? Kids don't know what to be scared of, He was nice to me. I didn't know that he had been so mean to his son. But you know what? Now that I think about it, he might have still been out of sorts with my father when my father got killed. So
What
that
makes
had
you
to
think
break
that?
his heart. Because he got killed when I was 1.5 years, and I think he was not talking.
Can you remember touching his hair?
No, when I was 5, I touched his hair. So that's a different story.
Oh, I got
No,
you.
but I was
it was
just
after
thinking
your father
about.
was already gone.
I was just thinking about that old man looking at my brother and me and thinking how he was so cruel to his own son. And maybe his heart went out to us for that reason, because he was stupid to be enemies with his son, considered his son died. And he lost a lot in the war, that man. He lost 2 sons and a son-in-law. Both my Uncle Helmut and my father got killed, and they were all under 27.
Wow.
And my aunt's husband got killed too. So all 3 of those young men got killed about the same year. There was only 1 son and 1 daughter left. So out of 5 people in that family that were young like that, 3 got killed. And when my aunt heard that her husband had gotten killed too, she went in her room and she cried for 2 weeks.
Because she lost 2 brothers
She
and
lost
her
her
husband.
baby during that 2 weeks. She miscarried, the only baby she ever expected. She miscarried. And when she came out, she was like 25. Her hair was as white as snow. And it never got brown again. So much grief, So she lost everything. She lost her husband, 2 brothers, and the baby she was expecting. So you talk about grief.
And because she cried so much, she lost the baby?
Just the shock was too much.
Oh, God.
It was just too much. She just couldn't imagine the war going on. And then by that time it probably looked like we were losing the war. So we were going to lose everything. They were going to lose everything. Their homes. They lost all their beautiful young men. They lost their homes. They lost everything, So it was a terrible time. All I remember is my mother telling us we had to get our backpack on. We had little baby backpacks. I was 4 and my brother was 2. And we had little backpacks, and my mother had a backpack, and my grandmother had a backpack, and that's all we were allowed to take. Everything else, all the china, all the silver, everything had to stay. They couldn't take it. Now, my mother had expected. Now, I didn't tell you. My grandfather, my mother's father, ended up owning a bar, during that is Hitler's time, owning a bar and restaurant, and one evening he was alone in the bar and restaurant with a few friends.
And what was his name?
Hermann Mantwurf. And there's an interesting story. He was married. He married a lady, and a beautiful lady, tall, slender, beautiful, with dark hair. And they had 2 little girls, and they had a diphtheria infection, and both his wife and the 2 little girls died. So he married my grandmother, who was the sister of that lady. And they had 1 daughter, and her name was Charlotte Amalie Mantwurf.
Right.
And
So
they
she was an
adored
only
her
child?
like she was the most spoiled little girl in the universe, obviously. It was the only child my grandmother ever had, and he had the 2 little girls that he lost, you know.
Right.
And she was a beautiful little girl. She had curls and blue eyes, and my grandmother did anything for her. She was a vegetarian when she was a little girl, and my grandmother always would cook 2 meals, one for her and her husband, and one for the little girl. So she was really spoiled, you know. And anyhow, when my grandfather was, now this is during the wartime, during Hitler's time, my grandfather was in a bar with some friends, supposedly really close
It was
friends.
his bar, or?
His bar.
Oh.
My mother's father,
Right.
Hermann Mantwurf. And he's made some statements about how bad he thought Hitler was. Within a couple of days, they came and picked him up and put him in a concentration camp. And one of these friends had to report him,
Yeah.
because he said there were like only 3 or 4 other people there except for himself. So when they gave the warning that the city had to be evacuated, we were living in Breslau, which was eastern Germany, and which they were losing the war, and so they told the people, which the Russians were coming. This was the real saying: the Russians are coming.
Yeah.
All the women and children have to leave the city. So all the trains pulled in, and all the people came there with their
And
backpacks.
all the men
Were in the
fought?
war. They had either been killed, or they were really, really, really ancient, or they were less than 10 years old, because they had taken 12-year-old boys in the army. They took 70, 60-year-old men and 12-year-old boys. So my mother and my grandmother and the 2 little kids, my brother and I, went to the train station, and I remember there were seemed like millions of people. Probably, I don't think the city was that big, but I mean there was a sea of people. And here's the train, and it wasn't a passenger train. It was like one of these trains where they transport cows in.
Right.
They just opened the doors and everybody piled in, and then if the train was full, they would sit on the roof, and or they would hang on to the outside just to get out of the city, because everybody was afraid to get bombed.
And you remember seeing
I remember,
all this.
and I remember my mother getting on the train, and my brother and I still being out there, and the train would start moving. And I remember myself screaming, "Marty, Marty!" Or I was on the train with my brother, and my mother was outside on the stage, and the train would start moving, and I would, "Marty, Marty!" And later on she told me, she said, "I hated you because all I could think about is this little girl screeching, Mutti, Mutti." And I was so stressed already, and here this little kid screaming. And I once went to a psychologist to talk about whatever problems I had, and she asked me to recall some stuff about my mother, guilt stuff.
Right.
And I said, well, the earliest thing I remember, my mother telling me that I really drove her crazy with my screaming, and I felt guilty about that. And she said, well, just picture this. There are millions of children that got lost in Germany during that time because the train moving and not stopping. And the mother would take off and the baby would be on there. That would be it.
Yeah.
Some strangers would take you and you would never remember your name or nothing. You were lost. So she says, just give yourself credit and say, because of my screaming, she never lost me. Because she always knew where I was. And I always held on to my brother, obviously, because he was my little buddy. So, you know, we got on that train. And somehow my mother had predicted this. She knew that something like this was going to happen. And she had some acquaintances that owned a farm out in Germany. And so they took the train close to that place. And they got a little wooden wagon with 4 little wooden wheels on it and a handle, and she packed feather beds and clothing and blankets and things like that on it and tied it with yarn, tied it with rope all around it, and we dragged that wherever we went. So when we got on the train, she would be up there trying to get that wagon on the train while I'm screeching down there, mutti mutti. I mean, I can't even imagine what stuff she should have had to go through, you know. But little kids don't know. They're self-centered. All they know is that the train is moving and I'm losing my mom,
Yeah.
you know. So I remember that. I remember a train station that was loaded with people waiting for a train, and me falling over some lady's legs, and my mother saying, come here, Goody, don't do that, Gudrun," or whatever she called me. And I said, "What?" And she said, "Well, that lady's dead." And I had fallen over her legs.
Oh my
So
God.
I remember that.
Weird.
And I remember being on a train, and we had nothing to eat,
Mhm.
and the train would stop and stand there for 2 hours in the middle of a potato field.
Mhm.
And my mother and a bunch of other women would go out and collect some potatoes out of the field, you know, pull the things up and take the potatoes, get on the train and put them. Somehow they had fire. They had a little thing there to boil potatoes. They would put the potatoes in a pot with water. I don't know how they got water, and they would boil it. And that's how we ate. Sometimes we ate the potatoes raw.
Wow.
And then sometimes when we walked through towns, they would have long lines of people standing there, and everybody would get a loaf of bread. And that's kind of how we lived. Just what people
Yeah.
gave us. We didn't have anything. And my brother got really, really sick. He ended up having like bloody diarrhea, and he couldn't even walk anymore. My mother had to. He was only 2. My mother had to tie him to the bedding on top of the little cart. And we went to a farm with German farmers,
Mhm.
and they had like, their barn was loaded with people trying to sleep. So my mother went to the kitchen and said to the lady, "Would you have a little milk you could spare? My son is really sick."
Mhm.
And the woman said, "I don't have anything."
Mhm.
And as my mother walked out, she poured the milk in for the cat. My mother never forgot that.
Yeah.
But, you know, I can kind of understand them having thousands of people
I,
going
th-
through
I
there.
thought you told me the story once where it was actually oatmeal. If you have any left over,
Mm.
can I have the rest of it?
No,
and
she
that
just
she
asked
ended
for
up.
milk. And she poured it for the cat. So I don't know how my brother made it, but you know what? I always believe that if you're not supposed to die, you won't.
Yeah.
And we made it all the way through. And we ended up in Brandenburg, and somehow my mother found a little apartment where they gave us like a little room. And my brother and myself and my mother lived there. And my grandmother got a room someplace else, but we were in the same city.
Mhm.
And that's where I learned how to read. I remember going to this school all by myself. My mother had this big bag for me, and I dragged that bag with me. And I remember looking up at this gate while I was going to the school, and the gate seemed to be like huge, and I seemed very little. I never forget that. And I was very scared because there were going to be lots of people in there that I'd never seen before.
Mhm.
And I was going all by myself, so I guess she didn't go with me.
Mhm.
That seems like a nightmare right now. And then I
And
remember
how old were you then?
Huh?
How old were you then?
5.
Yeah.
And then I remember my mother trying to teach me how to read.
Mhm.
And because she was such a nervous wreck, every time I got the word wrong, she'd hit me on the hand with a ruler. And so I got really scared, and I got everything wrong after that. And we didn't have any toilet paper. We used to have little pieces of newspaper ripped up on a nail in the wall. And while I was trying to hide in the bathroom from my mother by sitting on the potty for ages, right, I would take one of these little pieces of paper and look at it. And then one day my mother's sitting there reading the newspaper, and I said, "I know how to read that." And she said, "Yeah, right." And I said, "Yes, I do." She gave me the newspaper, and I read the newspaper to her. And I never got hit again for that. So that's how I learned how to read. But anyhow, Brandenburg was the city where we were at, and that was in the Russian zone.
But that's once you guys settled, or?
No. And we knew we had to get away from the Russians,
So this
because
is
by
coming
that
through
time
from Breslau.
the war was over.
Oh, okay.
And there were lots of Russians around. And that was the Russian zone, was now Breslau and Brandenburg, where we were was all Russian now. They had divided Germany into 3 or 4 parts. And so my mother ended up meeting a guy, and that was her boyfriend supposedly, and he was an artist. So he got paper and all the different things that you needed to make some passports, and he made passports for all of us. He made passports for my mother, for himself, for my grandmother, and for my brother and me. And he put this.
How did he do the pictures?
Well, the pictures we could get, but the stamps. You know what they do in the passport? They put the little picture
Right.
and then they put a stamp on
Right.
it. Well, he drew the stamp and everything. I mean, he was a genius, this man.
Wow.
And we ended up taking our little wagon and him and my grandmother and the two little kids, and we went across the border legally, because if you go illegally, they'd shoot you. So we went across the border, and I still remember that those people looking at the passports, and my mother told me later that if they would have realized they were falsified, they would have shot us all. They would have killed us all. And they could not tell that they were wrong.
Wow.
Yeah. And at that time, the Russians took everything we had that was worth something. My mother wore a rabbit fur coat. They took that. It was the sheep coat, but I mean, to them it seemed like luxurious, right? They took her wedding band, and they took my ring. I had a little baby ring. They took that, and my mother got the guts to go to the commandant and say to him, "They took my wedding band and they took my little girl's ring." And I must have looked pretty pathetic, you know, I mean, little tiny skinny girl with this huge round face. So he says, "Oh, go pick a ring." My mother found her wedding band. Because it had a special inscription on it by my father, she found it.
Wow.
So, which is one of the tiny rings Nadine has. But anyhow, I took a real cheap ring. I took a silver ring with a light blue stone, and my mother said, "You had a little ruby." I felt really bad.
Oh
But she didn't tell me. I just picked a ring I liked. What do the little girls don't know? So I picked a real cheap ring. But we ended up in the English zone, which wasn't as good as the American zone, but it was better. They didn't hassle us, and we ended up getting some sort of food, and so that was that about getting out of Germany during the war.
Wow. Well, how did your dad die?
My dad, my dad was a lieutenant because he had a college education, so he became a lieutenant, and he had a really good position as a trainer in Breslau. But then, while the war was going on, he said to my mother, "I just can't show my face in the street. They're sending out old men and young boys. I'm 26. I can't stay here in town. I'm going to have to volunteer to go to the front." So he did. I guess she couldn't talk him out of it. He did, and after he was there for 3 days, he got killed. He never even saw any action. But he didn't obey orders. They were only supposed to go 2 on 2. They weren't supposed to be by themselves. And he was delivering a message from one place to another, and he got on his bike and he rode out there by himself, and some sniper got him in the stomach. And this other couple of soldiers found him, and they said he was alive. He was perfectly fine, but he had a little tiny hole in his belly. And so they said, "Well, we can't stay here with you. We're going to get help." By the time they got back with help, he was dead. But they said he was perfect. There was just a tiny little hole in his stomach.
Wow.
And my mother went to that place where he was, and she got all his stuff. She got all the rings he had on and everything, so she knew it really was him. Because she didn't see him, they had buried him. So she got all his stuff, she knew it was him. Does the heating thing work?
It's okay.
Give each other a hug, you guys.
Right.
Corey.
What?
Give Ian a hug. Ian, you guys give each other a hug.
I can show you. Hold on.
She missed the cutest. He wants to kiss you. Let him
It's
kiss
like
you.
this. You want to kiss
He's
me?
so sweet.
Yeah? It's like this.
Whenever he leaves the car.
Hug.
Give your brother a hug.
Yeah, and so they just, ladies are so good, then they just can go like this.
Give him a kiss right here.
Right, and just on.
You do it, but it like peels off.
Every time Corey leaves the car to go to school, he gives Ian a hug and a kiss.
We're on the studio here. Where's the backdrop of the lighting? You don't know? Okay, so what I was trying to say was, you and Kyle are 10 years apart, right?
Yeah.
So like you're 7 and he's 17.
Yeah.
So like, okay, from my perspective, you guys are so different, and I was going to say, this is what I was going to tell you, and then I'll repeat what you said. Okay. I was going to say, think about it. You guys do such different things now because you guys are 10 years apart. But think about it. When you're 20 and Kyle's 30. You guys will be like buddies. I mean, 20 and 30 do the same stuff. But now you actually think you guys do similar kinds of things, don't you? Okay, like what kinds of things?
Like, me and him really like video games and stuff like that. And yeah. Like, we like to do stuff on the computer and everything.
Yeah. You know what Kyle's doing now on the computer? He's actually making his own music.
I know.
Oh, have you heard some of it?
Yeah.
Oh, you haven't even, he's made new songs that are so cool. They look like something you could buy in the store. They're so neat. And all he does is just like adjust these little things on the computer, and it turns out to be a really cool song.
I think he could start selling the CD and make lots of money.
That's what I think. He should like copyright his own stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Well, since Kyle didn't get to come, you can like
Animals.
Yeah.
say hi to him on the video if you want.
Yeah. Well, hi Kyle. I hope I see you soon. Bye.
All right, you I love you. You are
He is
so
a doll.
adorable. High
He
five,
is a
dude.
doll, that kid.
And you remind me so much of Kyle when he was your age. Yeah. You know what?
Kyle was
It's gonna
nice
go
like
like that, man. Before you know it, you're gonna be 6 foot just like your cousin.
I don't really know if I'm gonna be 6 foot.
Well, you'll be a big
close
guy.
enough.
You'll be a big guy. You'll be way bigger than you are now, that's for sure.
Yeah, I know that.
Dora, Dora,
All
Dora.
right. Well, you just keep doing good in school and stuff.
Okay.
You know, it's the key to your success.
Okay. Baby
All right.
song.
I'm zooming in over there.
What do you guys do?
I know. I think.
How do you
That was
zoom
nice.
in
See,
on
that
that?
was a little
Between the
conversation.
lines. You ever seen that?
I like that. So don't come home too late tonight, Denise, so we can finish that video, okay?
Okay.
What time does their barbecue start?
Well, I guess I might have to go over and tell Lisa. I don't know. What time is it?
Like 2:30, I think.
Wait, I think you got more. Let's
Because
try.
don't you need to?
I don't know if I should just stop off and see her for half an hour and leave if that's rude, or if I should just call her and say I'm sorry, I just got too busy, I'm not going to be able to make it at all. Are you taping this?
What's it for 5?
Actually, that was on there. But I mean, I'm actually taping John.
Okay, hi.
Hi. I'm visiting here for Denise's graduation, and we decided to give another installment on my experiences in the war. So
Okay.
Denise just asked me about Dresden, and I remember how we took trains and we walked and we did all kinds of different things to get to West Germany. One of the trips we ended up in Dresden, and I think it was just a couple of days after the big bombing. And I remember that it was Dresden, and I have never seen it as beautiful as it was supposed to be, but I remember that the whole thing was just totally rubble. And I remember one of the houses being totally cut in half, so all the rooms were empty. I mean, you could see all the rooms, and there was still a table set with chairs around it, and the wall was all gone. Half the house was down in rubble, and the other half was still standing. It made a big impression on me.
Oh my God.
So that's kind of what I remembered.
Wow.
Otherwise, I don't remember a lot. I talked about, not having anything to eat, and all of us being really hungry all the time, and my mother having to say, I'd say, Mutti, I'm so hungry, and she'd say, sorry, I don't have anything. And I remember that, and it now makes me kind of angry if I take care of little kids. They got all this food, and they don't want to eat anything. And I remember how, we didn't have anything, and all the good stuff that they have available, I would have just been so happy to have something like that. But maybe that's, neither here nor there. Anyhow, what other questions do you have?
Well, you also recalled an experience, and I don't know where it was. I mean, it sounds like this journey was a long period of time. Do you remember how long it took you guys to walk from, I guess, what would be called the Eastern Bloc over into the West Side or something? Did anyone tell you? We walked for 6 months.
It was weeks,
So, but those weeks seem like a really long time.
yeah.
It seemed like you were walking for years or
I
something.
remember some instances, since I'm talking about not having any food, and I see some of the homeless begging now, and people put these people down for begging, and I'm always saying, you have to have some charity and some love in your heart for these people, because there's nothing more horrible than to have to go to somebody and to say, please give me something to eat because I'm hungry. That's really bad. And my mother never went to beg the Russian soldiers for food because they were known to rape everybody. Every woman that they saw, they would rape, except somebody really, really old. And I guess my grandmother was considered pretty old. She was in her 50s, but I guess they considered her old, so nothing ever happened to her. And she would take my brother and me, and we would go over to the Russian soldiers and ask for food. And they were always very nice because we were there, because we looked like little Russian kids. We had blonde hair and blue eyes. And I remember especially my brother. They were crazy about my brother. He was like 2. And I remember the Russian soldiers just picking him up and throwing him up in the air and just hugging him. And I guess they were, remembering their own children.
Wow.
And they would always give us bread. And I remember asking for bread and butter. I still remember the name for bread, which is klepper. and butter was masla. And we would ask for bread and butter. I know we always got bread. I don't ever recall getting butter, but
Wow, whoever taught you that?
I knew my mother. She knew the 2 words, so we would go and ask, and they would give us something. And my mother said that when they first entered the English or American zone, I don't really know which it was, but they were English speaking. My mother spoke English, and because now it was supposedly civilized people, she went with us to ask for food to wherever the soldiers were. And she used to make herself kind of dirty because she didn't want to look pretty. My mother was very beautiful, and she didn't want to look pretty because she was afraid somebody might rape her. And when she got there and she was kind of dirty and she asked them for food, they all laughed and they wouldn't give us anything. And I remember that because they laughed at my mother. And as far as I was concerned, nobody should laugh at my mother. You know, I was 4 or 5. But I remember that experience. So then we ended up in the English-speaking zone, and my mother got a letter or something from my grandfather who was in the concentration camp, and she went to visit him. Now my grandfather was a cook, and since he wasn't Jewish, she was German, and he had blonde hair and blue eyes. He became a cook because he was a good cook. He became a cook for the Nazis in the concentration camp. So he didn't suffer any of those horrible things that happened to some of those other people. Or he never got killed, he never got put in a gas chamber, he never got beaten, he never got any of this horrible treatment. And somehow he got hold of some stuff, and he wrote to my mother to come and get some things. And so my mother went to visit him, and she had her famous rucksack, which is a backpack, with her. And one of the things, there was some food and some things, one of the things she got was one of these square things with a handle on top that was like a cheese grater. I don't know how he got that, but he gave that to her. So she had that backpack loaded with things.
Well, how did he get stuff in the concentration camp that he wanted her to get?
Because he worked in a kitchen.
Oh, so he was stealing from it.
Well, he probably took some stuff and gave it to her. I don't know if it was called stealing. Maybe
this is how they paid him.
I don't know.
Okay.
All I can say is that my grandfather got some stuff for her. She
Right.
had it in the backpack.
Right.
She got on a train. And while she was on the train, there was a man sitting next to her. The siren started. They were going to bomb the train station. So the man said to her, let's get under the train, because if the train gets hit, we're definitely going to be decimated. But the train has a lot of metal things in it, so it's going to protect us. So they went under the train and kind of laid down, stretched out in between the rail. The train was over them, and my mother put her backpack on her head. And the train station got hit. Now, I wasn't there. This is a story she told me. The train station got hit. I don't think the train got hit, but the train station got hit, and everything started to shake. And you know, like if a big bomb hits and things explode, everything rattles and moves. And a big, huge metal thing out of the train fell on the backpack on my mother's head, and it smooshed the cheese grater totally flat. The cheese grater must have been, lying down.
Yeah.
And it got totally flat, and nothing happened to my mother. And she saved that cheese grater for the rest of her life, and always said, "This thing saved my life."
You're kidding.
Yeah, so that's a story my grandkids like to hear.
She always kept that thing?
Yeah.
So you don't, obviously when she died, we don't know where it is. Someone threw it out.
Oh, I don't know. Well, I just remember her showing it to me 2 or 3 times. I don't know how long she kept it. But anyhow, that was an interesting story that, and I always tell the story to the grandkids because they want me to tell them all these stories.
Oh.
And this is one of them Ian likes. Ian says, "Tell me the story about the cheese grater." I must have told him that story about 30 times already. He loves it.
So, there are a lot of, nowadays there are a lot of concentration camps that have been turned into museums. And I saw, obviously, some specials about some of the big famous ones, like Auschwitz, and I don't know the names of the other ones. But you can actually go into some of these in Germany and go through and tour them, and then there's even like logbooks where you can look up people that were there and everything. And I know you know very little about where he was or anything, but do you mind mentioning just like his name and then maybe the city he lived in, because he probably was sent to one possibly close to where he lived? Your grandfather.
He was picked up in Breslau, which is now Polish.
Oh, okay.
So it was...
So it was before the war?
No, during the war.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But it was before you guys left, or you don't know?
Yeah, before we left.
Okay.
because I know the reason why we left just the two women, my mother and her.
Because there was concentration camps in Poland too.
Yeah, oh yeah, probably was one in
Okay.
in the eastern Germany, all the way in the east,
Right.
close to the border,
Right.
or maybe in Poland. I really don't know. I
Right.
mean, I was a little kid. Nobody
Well,
told
I
me
know.
anything.
This is just for the record.
And I never really. His name was Hermann Manfroth, and he was born sometimes in 1890 something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he would be like 110 years old, 120 years old.
And this is your mom's father.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
And he was there for quite a while, and then I remember him getting released, and
Yeah.
my grandmother then moved someplace close to where her family was, and the two of them got an apartment together, and he
Oh.
lived for another 10 or 15 years, because probably about he lived for another 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Then he got cancer and he died. But I remember him as a teenager. I used to spend, as a smaller child, I used to spend summer vacations with them.
Oh.
And so I really loved him. He was a nice man. He always had a fluffy mustache. I liked his mustache.
So did he work as a chef after that?
No, he was old and pretty sick.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what happened to him, but he just, the government, I think, took care of him because he was in a concentration camp.
Mm-hmm.
And he also had a job watching bicycles in a dance place, like a bar and grill where people used to dance.
Mm-hmm.
And
Because people would ride their bikes to this bar to go dance?
Yes.
Okay.
Because only a few people had cars.
Okay.
So we used to get hundreds of bikes to watch. Everybody would come to the dances. They were all young people, obviously, like in their 20s.
Hey, Kyle would have fit right in.
Yeah. And I used to go and help him, and used to have to take the bike, take the 50 cents or whatever it was from the people, and you give them a ticket and apply the other ticket to the bike and put it someplace. You know?
Uh-huh.
And then later on, when they were done dancing, they would come and get their bike.
Uh-huh.
And then when we used to go home, I used to count the money. I used to get to count the money, and I liked that.
Oh, cool.
And I was about 15 or 16 at that time.
Uh-huh.
So it was kind of fun.
And what city did they live in at this time?
Oh gosh, I don't remember.
But it was close to the city you were living in with your mom?
No, it wasn't close. When I visited them, I used to have to take the train.
Right.
And I remember I was like 8 or 9 years old, probably 7, 8.
Uh-huh.
And my mother used to put me on the train. She'd pack me a package of sandwiches.
7 and 8 years old?
Uh-huh. Pack me a package of sandwiches.
So
and
this was
hard-boiled
like
eggs.
3-4 years after the war?
Yeah.
Wow.
And she would package a package of sandwiches and hard-boiled eggs and set me on the train and tell the conductor what station I had to change in. Oh, Oenhausen. Bad Oeynhausen was the city they lived in. And that was the English zone now too. We all were in the English zone. And I remember the train would start moving and I would start eating my sandwiches. So by the time the train was gone for 20 minutes, everything was gone. I never forget that. All I could do is wait until the train moved so I could eat.
That's what I do at the movies.
Yeah?
I eat all the goodies before the movie starts.
Oh, that's funny.
So the eastern, the English zone, that was like what, the northwest?
Well, after the war was lost by Germany, the country was occupied
Right.
by all the 4. Actually, it was 3. I don't think
It was
the
Poland,
French-
England, U.S. and
No, it was Russian,
oh
English, and American.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
think the Polish occupied anything. The French occupied anything. They didn't want to occupy.
but
anything.
Poland came back in and reclaimed their land, so they must have
Well,
had
they
that
took
one
the
block,
land.
right?
That became Poland. But there was, in Germany itself, there was a Russian zone, an English zone, and an American zone.
Oh, okay.
And we ended up in the English zone where, you know, the people were treated well. You didn't get as many goodies as the people in the American zone did. The Americans were
Which was
known-
probably Bavaria or something, right?
Yeah. The Americans were known to be very generous with the Germans. They liked
Right.
the Germans, and they were nice to the Germans, and they're basically known as generous people. So I
Right.
think the American zone was the place to be. Like
Right.
Frankfurt probably was the American zone. We lived in the English zone, and the government ended up paying my mother a pension because she had lost my father.
Right.
And we also got, my brother and I got pensions because we had lost our father in the war. And they took pretty good care of us. We were not able to afford an apartment. There was some poor unfortunate lady who had a 2-bedroom apartment, very nice, with a nice living room and a big kitchen. And she lost half her apartment. They put us into 2 of her bedrooms, and one of them became our living room and the other one was our bedroom. So that poor lady who'd never had kids suddenly had this other woman in there and the two little kids.
Because the government said this is where these
Yeah,
people are
this
going to live.
Everybody got occupied. Like everybody who had an apartment had to take these people in.
The refugees from the war.
Yes, she never saw us in her life, and suddenly we were living with her.
So what was this lady's name?
I don't know.
Oh.
But
So
anyhow,
she didn't almost become like family.
No, she was a pain. She complained about everything, and obviously.
And how long did you guys live with this lady?
About a year or two. And my mother then
Wow.
was alone. She had a lot of friends. She made a lot of friends. She was
Yeah.
a lot of fun.
Right.
She made a lot of friends. She didn't really have any boyfriends. She just had friends, mostly couples or
Yeah.
ladies. And then she read a newspaper, and there was a really mushy kind of poem in the newspaper. And under the poem, it was signed Paul Wagner. And she read the poem and she said, "There's only one person I know who could write a poem like that, and that's the Paul Wagner I know." It was very weird, very gushy and mushy.
Was it
So
about
she-
her?
No. So she contacted the newspaper and said, "I would like to get in contact with this man." They contacted each other by letter, I guess, because in those days nobody had a phone.
Right.
And he came to see her, and they realized that they knew each other since they were 16.
So he was part of a group of
He
friends.
was part of that group that my mother and father, when they took that steno class, he was
Right.
one of the guys.
Right.
And so he had been married, and when he came home from the war, his wife was living with some other guy. He had
Right.
3 kids with her, and she said, there's not room here for Willie and you, so you have
Yeah.
to leave. So my stepfather could not get a job because he didn't have an apartment, and he couldn't get an apartment because he didn't have a job. So when he visited my mother, she had the apartment,
Right.
and so he was able to move in with her after they got married. My mother wouldn't live with anybody without being married.
Right.
He got the divorce from his wife, and that ended up being a mess, but that's beside the point. I don't really want to talk about that. But he became our father after
Right.
our stepfather. And we liked him a lot before they were married, and after they were married, it
The
wasn't
honeymoon
that
was
great.
over.
Wasn't that great.
Right.
I ended up.
You
know,
guys,
he was-
and not to bring this up, but you guys probably all lost that pension you were talking about, right?
That's what happened. My mother lost the pension because she married him,
Right.
but he was going to work, so he
Right.
kind of would have made up for the pension.
Right.
And what happened is his wife sued him for child support, so we lost our pension that we got from the government, now went to those other 3 kids, so all we lived was on that miserable salary he could get. So we were really poor, and we were practically starving. I mean, we had it a whole lot better before she married him. And his wife created a lot of hassle,
What the heck?
wrote nasty letters, called my mother names.
Ah.
Oh, it was awful. She was horrible, horrible person, horrible. And so my mother was very disappointed in life because she had made the wrong move. She should have never married this guy.
Mm-hmm.
But now it was too late. She had done it. She was stuck. She had lost her pension, couldn't get it back.
And she probably felt sorry for him because he had nowhere to live. And even
Well,
if
yeah,
someone,
she felt sorry. That's why she married
and he
him.
was
She
also a
didn't
good
love him.
friend, right?
She
And if
didn't
someone
love
had
him.
advised her beforehand and said, "Hey, are you thinking twice about this? You might lose this, this, and this," she might not have even realized
If she would have
anything.
known, she would have had to pay child support. I don't think she would have married him.
Yeah.
Because then we lost everything.
Yeah.
She thought, well, they have their support
Right.
from the government, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So anyhow, that really created a real hassle in their marriage.
Right.
That this woman now took all our money. And my stepfather was a good gardener, so we got a piece of land someplace out in no man's land, and he fixed it up really nice and made a beautiful garden. And so we kind of lived on that.
Mm-hmm.
And then my
And he started to grow
relatives-
food?
He grew food. He grew all our vegetables. He grew everything,
Wow.
big strawberries, and he was a very good gardener. He grew all our food, and my mother was able to can food too for the
Wow.
winter when there was nothing growing in the garden.
Yeah.
And we had really wonderful relatives in America
Yeah.
who were my real father's uncle.
Oh.
And they would send us 2 or 3 times a month. They would send us a big package with food. And that's how we got to know about peanut butter and all this stuff. And they would send noodles, and the noodles were the Del Monte noodles with a little see-through piece of plastic in the front where you could see the noodles. Well, and my aunt would slip them. They were not allowed to send cigarettes.
Oh.
She would slit open the noodles and move the cigarettes to the front where the window was, and slide a package of cigarettes in there and then reseal it with glue. And so they would open the package and look at everything and shake everything, but because of the noodles in there, you couldn't see the cigarettes. So when my mother would get these packages, she was a smoker.
She would slide the noodles to the front.
Yes.
And put the cigarettes in the back.
And so then it was really tightly packed.
Right.
And so they couldn't see the cigarettes. So
Right.
my mother, because they would open up the whole package and look at everything, because they didn't want them to get anything that was worth anything. But
Yeah.
peanut butter and things like that, and it was a big package full of food.
Right.
And we could get like 2-3 of them a month. I mean,
Right.
plus we had some cousins that were my age.
Was this Jackie and...
No, those were
No.
different cousins from
Okay.
Utah. They lived in Utah. They were far removed, but they had a lot of money, and that little...
I thought your
those
cousin
girls-
Jackie was in New York.
Yeah, I know, but that woman was not my aunt.
Oh, okay.
The husband was my aunt, was
Oh,
my
oh, okay,
relative.
okay.
They don't send us. He would send us a package, and she would make the biggest fight in the world with him because he would send something to his relatives. So they didn't send us much. But the other uncle and aunt, the aunt did most of the work. That she was a masseuse. She was Swedish, and most of the work she did, she spent on sending packages of food to relatives in Germany so they wouldn't starve.
Wow.
And because of these people, we had a really decent.
Well, that was nice that he married someone. She wasn't even German and she was
I
doing
know.
all this.
Those are the people that let me come to this country.
Right.
later. And when I was about 9, they wanted to adopt me because they never had any kids and they wanted to adopt me. But my mother asked me, she said, would you like to go to America and be adopted? And I cried and I said, please, no. And so I didn't go.
You mean she was already married to Powell and you guys were kind of starving and everything?
I didn't want to leave my mother. When you're 9, you don't want to leave your mother. And so I always adored my mother, so I wouldn't have left her on purpose. You know.
So she
So
actually
that-
gave you the choice.
Well, my mother never really liked me that much, I don't think. Very few people would ever give up their kid to somebody.
Well, maybe she just felt like she couldn't really provide for you and maybe it'd be way better over there.
Well, they were pretty well off, so I would have had a good childhood. If I would have gone to them, I would have had a much better life. I would have been their only child who would have spoiled the living daylights out of me, and I would have become an American. I would now not have this accent.
Oh my
But
God.
anyhow...
But you're more fun the way you are now.
Well, anyhow, you would send us clothing, clothes for my mother, clothes for my stepfather, and I would get all these wonderful clothes. I mean, oh man, those girls had wonderful clothes, and they very rarely wore them. You know how your kids are. You know, they wear everything once or twice, and it's like new when they outgrow it. So I would get these huge packages of clothes, and I was the best dressed kid in the whole neighborhood. I looked wonderful all the time. Everything was cotton, so my mother had to iron everything. And I was pretty messy, so she spent half the time ironing things for me. You know, she'd say, I don't know what happens to you. Dirt flies on you. And I remember looking down at myself, and I was all clean, and walking around with my hands behind my back all day, and somehow there was dirt on me again. I never knew how that happened. It was fun. But anyhow, between his growing the vegetables and my mother getting the stuff from America from these relatives, you know, we were living all right. We didn't starve anymore, so that was nice. And we got this for years. These people sent us 2-3 packages a month. It was amazing. Those were wonderful people. I mean, I can't even imagine doing something like that on this big a scale. And we were not the only ones getting. All the other relatives that, you know, that strewn around Germany would get the same stuff.
Yeah.
But anyhow, when my mother would get the package and open it up, and the first thing she would head for would be the noodles. And she'd open it up and she'd look at the noodle, at the cigarettes. And I remember they used to be Kent.
Yeah.
They were Kent cigarettes. In those days, they didn't have filters.
Yeah.
So she was a smoker. She loved cigarettes, and she used to sit there, sniff the package, and then she would go to the black market and sell the cigarettes and get butter for it for us kids, because we didn't have any butter and we needed some fat because we were so skinny.
Oh my
And she
gosh.
used to my father used
And
to
she
grow-
wouldn't smoke them.
And my father would grow his own cigarette leaves, and my mother would roll cigarettes out of newspaper and smoke those. Can you imagine what that must have done to her?
Oh my God.
Must
He used to
have been
grow tobacco.
homegrown tobacco, dry it. I still know how to do it.
You
Dry
do?
the tobacco, yeah, lay it out, and it would get all brown and crisp if you leave it there long enough. She might even have put it in the oven. I'm not 100% how she dried it. But then she'd crumble it really fine, and then take a piece of newspaper, cut it to a certain shape, roll the cigarette, and smoke it. And that's how she always, whenever she got cigarettes, she traded in the black market for food for us kids. I remember that.
Oh my God.
That really impressed me.
That's cool.
So, yeah. So that was after the war. And then after a while, when I got a little older, they said that they would like me to come to America once I was done with my high school.
Right.
So, and then I said, okay, because by that time my mother was already
Yeah.
really tough on me.
Yeah.
And,
I bet you the thought crossed your mind to go before then.
no.
It didn't?
But they then said, when she's done with high school and she's grown up, could we have her then? And I said, oh great, I wanted to go. But in my mind...
You knew you were going to kind of go out there and live with
Well,
them.
that's what kind of kept me sane. My mother would be really, really tough and horrible to me. And maybe it was just because I was a teenager and I thought everything was horrible, just like most teenagers do. But she also yelled at me for hours on end, and I know that wasn't normal, you know.
Yeah.
And I used to be very crazed, and I would just say to myself, it's okay, you're going to America, and that's what kept me sane. That's what kept me from losing it altogether. And I was excited. I remember that, you know, when I was 16, I went to Frankfurt and I had my blood test done and I got all the shots and I got my passport and I got my immigration papers. And then when I was done with high school, I got on the boat. My mother drove me we took the train to Amsterdam and then Rotterdam, and I got on the boat. I had this little suitcase, and I remember I had a gray suit which was made out of real scratchy wool. I've always been allergic to wool. And it was wool, and I had a white blouse on and this suit and sandals, and I had a ponytail. I was 17. And I got on
Isn't
that
there a
boat.
picture of you on that boat?
Yeah. I don't know where it is now.
I've seen a picture, I think.
Yeah. I was... are the steaks ready? Oh, whoops.
Oh, they are? Maybe we should...
Take a rest.
Oh, they're getting cold?
Okay.
Okay. Recording. Hi.
Hi. Cool. How do you do
So
that?
now see where it says record?
Yeah.
It's recording.
That's just like mine. It says red.
floor.
Right. Now the zooming in and out is right here.
Oh,
See, watch.
okay.
See where this... Go this way, you go in. And you go that way, you go out.
Okay, and this is record and not record.
Yeah, go ahead and push it.
Yeah.
Go get it.
I will. There's Ian who's asleep. So cute.
She's probably coming out at the hospital Monday or Tuesday. That's what I was guessing.
Lift your covers off.
Hey,
Can you sing Scooby-Dooby-Doo?
Scooby-Dooby-Doo, where are you? Is that how it goes? I don't know.
He knows it. Show us, Ian.
How does it go? Look at the camera because she can't hear you. Go closer. Wait, I'm sorry. Say it again. Ian, can you say it again?
I'm tired.
Look at us. We can't see you. Go in front of him.
I can't, she'll fall over.
Daddy, I can't wait.
Okay, let's go.
Corey, come on.
Now we have Amanda.
Oh!
We had Amanda the other night. Now we have Amanda for Easter. And what are you doing with that egg?
Just waiting.
You're doing what?
Waiting.
Waiting.
To get that.
To get what?
That.
Oh, because you want to write something on it? What are you going to write on it?
Oh, one way.
I know, but what's something? What's the something you're going to write?
You ready?
Here.
I'll put it on the tray over here. See how your writing came out?
Hey, Mom, I put four.
You wanna do another
Mom, I put 4 hearts on one side, and on the other side I put Corey, comma
you wanna write
CJ.
on
Yeah.
Aw, wait, let me get you on video so you can tell me what you did. What was that now?
On one side I put 4 hearts, and on the other side I put
Can Ian see?
Corey, comma CJ. My
Awesome!
nickname is CJ. Anthony's helping.
Do you want to write on it first? Wait, I'll write something for here.
I love it.
You
I
want me to
think
write
it's
something, or
awesome.
you want to write?
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, where is that?
Okay.
Because you know why? Because then it hits your whole name, except for your last name.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just Corey with a C, but it's Corey Justin.
This one is blue one.
Let me see. Well, what did you write on your egg?
I don't know.
Did you just make a design? Cool. Are you having fun coloring?
John's on the phone with his mom, so. Yeah. Yeah, thanks. You too.
Ian?
Yeah.
What's your favorite color, Ian?
Yellow, orange, and
She's
blue.
only 65.
Yellow, orange, and blue. Cool. Oh, and look at the big bunnies we got. I got the kids.
Chocolate.
Yeah, chocolate bunnies for everybody. Very tall. Unfortunately, Corey's broken half. But we told him that it's in 2 pieces. Now he can have twice the fun.
I wanted half green and half blue, but I dropped it all in.
Well, pick it out. It's okay. You can still have a 2-tone egg. Right?
How?
I'll show you.
Maria.
Hey, it still isn't cracked.
Good. Even though you dropped it, it's not cracked.
Help.
Wait, okay, Ian.
Okay.
Can we wait a little while? Because I'm trying to do a 2-tone one.
Okay.
Pick a different
Wait,
color.
just a second.
Because that one's holding this one up. And then that one's going to fall.
Where's
Mine's
yours?
right here. Mine's turquoise and blue and green.
Okay, just wait till Aunt Denise is done. When Denise is done, I'll take
Look.
mine out, and then you can
No,
get
no,
yours.
that's mine.
Okay.
Well, I'm trying to help him do
A double layer.
Yeah.
It's actually a triple layer.
Ian, we only need like 1 minute, okay?
Guys, it's actually a triple layer. It's blue, turquoise, and green.
It is? Where's the turquoise?
And there's
the middle.
the ring of turquoise.
Oh,
and
there you go. Cool.
You ready, Corey?
Okay.
Is it done? Let me see it.
Ian, honey, let me get mine.
Oh, wow, that came out incredible. Look at that. That's awesome. Hi, Dad.
Hello.
Happy Easter. Hi, happy Easter.
Color my face. We're on the video, so here I am. Here I am. I'm on the video.
Who's that what you're with?
I want to pick out
I'm CJ.
Hi, CJ.
Ian. CJ. AKA Corey. Now, which color do you
What does
want?
AKA mean?
Also,
known as
Green.
this is
Green.
Nadine, aka my beautiful sister.
Yeah, I look great. I'm all pink. Okay, what color do you want? You want? That is gorgeous. This is how it is. If we add green to this, you might end up with a brown egg.
No, I got
No, it's turquoise. See, look, the bottom was covered with green.
Why don't we do another one and you do it green?
No.
what color will it end up, Corey?
You want half of it green?
Turquoise.
Or the whole thing? Half?
Turquoise.
Can I do
that?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna rub. Come here.
Don't drop it, Ian. You got a hold of it? You want me to hold the box?
Oh my gosh, Mama.
You want me to
This
hold the
smells
box?
like real chocolate. Can I eat it?
Did you already say?
It is real chocolate. You mean you didn't know that?
No, I didn't.
You thought it was fake chocolate? They're broken half. Nope, now you know it's real.
The poor guy, it's like he never gets chocolate. Wait, do you want to get, wait you guys, let's get a picture of you with your, John, can you get out the camera?
Let him take a bite. Let him take a bite. Take a bite.
No,
We want to get a picture of the 3 of you guys.
No, Ian. Ian, we're like this.
Let's put it in. Is that good the way it is?
Until it is in the picture.
Is it hard to bite? Don't break your teeth.
They're pretending not to bite.
Okay, you want to do yours too, honey? Here, come over here, sweetie.
Don't break the box.
No, I'm not going to break the box. Can we get a picture with the actual camera, do you think?
Maybe.
Oh, we're taking videos?
We knew where it was.
I have mine. I have my camera.
Okay. Hey, three kids side by side. No. These are chocolate
You
rabbits.
guys, get close to each other so you can get a picture.
In the middle, Ian.
Hey, but should I like the rabbits like a guitar that you're playing? That'd be cool. Okay, let me get my regular camera.
She's right on this side of you.
Hi, Carlindo. Did you what he said? CJ's right here.
Oh my God.
Thanks, CJ.
Hey, CJ.
Even Wilson's gonna sing.
Don't be shy.
Okay, ready? Is it kind of dark, or are we okay?
It's good.
Okay, ready? Okay, you're gonna have to excuse us because I'm missing one of the notes.
Oh,
Okay.
you told me, yeah.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved my life like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found.
Yay! Wilson off. Wilson off.
What good singing and what great flute playing.
No.
I know. Weird. Seriously, shouldn't be jumping on her.
Maybe it's too bright, because I'm definitely recording you.
Okay.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello. This is our wonderful picnic, surrounded by some beautiful greens, right? Mm-hmm. It is so peaceful out here.
Today is April 9th, Saturday. And here, let me get some video of Denise.
Okay. Hi, Mama.
Hi, sweetie pie.
There you go. And see who came to visit us?
This is a picture-perfect day in Albuquerque. Even the dog is looking like me. We decided this was closer to home than Flying Star, so we just have our own little outdoor picnic.
Yeah.
Well, I hope
No?
she doesn't see that. She's quite a gossip. So if you want everyone in the neighborhood to know everything, just tell her and everybody knows. But she's a sweetie, very, very highly intelligent. She used to be a
Doctor?
no, she worked with newspapers and news. And
Journalist?
Oh,
She was
journalist.
a journalist at the university, and I mean, really highly respected roles. Wrote all kinds of papers, wrote a book, did all kinds of stuff. And she lived in Boston before the Kennedys became bootleggers. They lived
Oh.
right next door to the Kennedys.
You're kidding.
No,
Her name's
she's-
Phyllis and she's 82?
81, 82,
Oh.
81. And she, he's a cutie. And she said she used to sit on the porch with Ted Kennedy
Really?
as a teenager. You mean I didn't tell you this?
No.
And her father once said to her, "If you ever come home with John Kennedy, I will disown you."
Are you serious? Is this before their family was in politics?
This was before their family became rich. They were just some Irish family with lots and lots of kids. And
Weren't they always rich?
No, they started bootlegging, she
when
said.
they started bootlegging, they became millionaires. They were always well off because the guy was a crook. I hope
What, the dad?
published this.
Yeah.
Kennedy. Yeah, the guy always was a
What are
crook.
they going to do to you, Mom? We're calling the Kennedys a crook.
Yeah, right. Scrape up my ashes and say, no, no, no. you
Oh,
shouldn't
so now you're not, but you're not talking about John F. That was probably the
Yeah.
kid.
I was talking about the president.
Oh.
That Phyllis's father said, if you ever date him, I will kill you.
Because he knew what
He
a
had a reputation.
reputation
He had a reputation as a womanizer and
Wow.
a scad. And so, you know, her stories are like... I love to listen to her. She's just so fun.
How neat.
Yeah.
And how do you know her? You know her from what?
She lives behind me.
She still drives, doesn't she?
Oh, yeah.
Let
Well,
her
that's
ride
awesome.
my
But
car.
she's She's getting there. Her legs, I mean, her hands and feet are kind of numbing up and all that. So she doesn't have much more than a year. But they won't give her an operation because she's so old.
Oh, yeah.
She could have a heart transplant if she was 61. They probably would do it, or open heart surgery, or assorted other things. But at 81, you would die on the table probably.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And she has pretty comfortable life. I mean, she's got it nice.
Oh my God.
Hey, puppy.
Are there any more speckled sticks?
Puppy.
There we are.
Freckled Ricks. Freckled Tricks.
Here's the two cousins, the two big boy cousins, doing connects together. This is an awesome occasion because Kyle loved connects when he was, what, Kyle?
I still love connects.
Maybe like, what, 5, 6 years old, 7, 8? Your age,
All the way
Corey.
until I was like 9 or 10.
Yeah. So when it's done, we're going to take a movie of what it looks like, okay?
And what's the
Look at me, you guys. Are you having fun doing this?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Aww.
Thanks, Corey.
Give me a big smile, both of you, for the camera. Love you guys.
Go ahead so she can video it. Put your hands on
Awesome. Okay, Amanda's got a little story she wants to share.
Well, one day, there was this boy named Cody, and he came over to Grandma's house, and he saw the makeup that Grandma gave me, and he wanted to put some on his face, and he ended up putting all the pink and purple all over his face.
Even on his ears?
Yeah.
And did you have any left?
No.
You didn't have any of the pink or purple left?
No.
Did that make you mad?
No.
Why not?
Because.
She liked him.
Didn't.
It was funny.
Yes.
The end.
Yeah, and you know, this was like a 9 or 10-year-old boy. This wasn't just a 4-year-old.
Ah,
he
so
would
he was
come-
pretty cool.
What happened is his grandmother, who lived across the street, had broken her leg and it didn't heal for a long time. So his mother moved in. Her mother moved in with the grandmother and took care of her. And so the little boy was there every day after school. He'd come knocking on the door. Is Amanda here?
Oh.
No, she's only here on Wednesday. Oh.
He
So
liked
then-
playing with you. Huh? Did you like playing with him?
Yes.
Yeah, it was fun.
But he wasn't as he like for a long time. You liked a boy that visited Grandma's house named Eric. No, it was Cody. Oh, it was Cody.
We remember Cody because it's just like Corey,
Mm-hmm.
except with a DY instead, you know. So every time I thought, what was his name? Ah, Cody. So we remember
Tell us the story of the. She wanted to hear the story about Uncle Chris falling into the rain barrel.
Yeah, well, that's a really short story, thank God. Yeah, Uncle Chris was a little tiger,
Like
Always.
kind of like Ian, huh?
much younger than that. He couldn't even talk yet. He couldn't even talk.
You don't mind if I video you, do you?
He would do some horrible things, like in Germany it was pretty hot in the summer, and my mother used to also sew these little pants that had like a
Lederhosen?
bib. No, it was made out of material. Soft.
Lederhosen are strictly leather?
Leather.
Suede?
And he was, yeah. And he, no, real leather too. And he used to not like this thing because it had a bib in the front and it had straps over the shoulders. So as soon as he would decide, I don't want to stay in this backyard. My mother did not watch him very well. So he'd open the gate and walk out. And then 2 houses down, he'd take off his pants and throw him over somebody's fence. And then from then on, he would just walk down the street naked. Naked.
And how old was he?
About 2.
You mean that was all he had on was those lederhosen or the
Yeah.
shorts with the?
Well, he might have had sandals on, I'm not sure.
Okay.
He probably had sandals on. I don't think he probably took those off. And then my mother would start calling, Hansi, 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 and could never find him. And she would end up at the police station. And here was my brother sitting there with a big ice cream cone in his hand. Ice cream all over his face. Really
And
happy,
naked?
smiling.
And naked too?
And naked.
Naked, yeah.
With an ice cream cone.
Yeah.
So the policeman would give
The
him an ice cream
Germans are not
cone.
freaked out by nakedness like
Or
the
ice cream.
Irish. Or ice cream.
Well, especially
They like ice cream and naked. No, just kidding. Especially with the 2-year-old. They're so cute. But anyhow, one day it had rained, and the rain barrel, my mother had a rain barrel which was really big, like this big, and about as tall as Denise. Very big. And all the rainwater would go in there. And then when they used to wash their hair, they'd rinse their hair with that rainwater because it's very soft. Makes your hair nice.
You have to boil it first, though, right?
I don't think so. I think in those days things were not polluted like they are now.
Oh.
This is like
Because you had, when I was 11 or 12, you
But
had
wait, let her
me.
finish the story real quick.
1943. I don't know, Denise. I was 3 years old. I did not know the intricacies of washing your hair
Oh,
with
okay.
rainwater. But anyhow, he one day climbed up there and looked in. Wow, and fell in head first. And so I
And
went.
he was like 2?
Yeah. And he was stuck in there. And I went inside and I said, Mutti, come get Hansi, he's in the water. And I showed her where he was, and she got him out.
Oh, she got him out. I thought you had gotten him out.
No, I couldn't have gotten him out. I wasn't tall enough.
Because you were like 4.
Yeah.
So
I
you
was
were
3.
younger than Amanda.
Yeah, 4. Yeah, 4 and 2, you know. They're always 2 years apart. But I saved his life if I wouldn't have told her and just looked in there and said, oh, you know where Hansi is? Yeah, he's in there.
Well, I remember when I was about 11 or 12, it had rained, and we filled up all these different pots outside, and then you said if you boil it and then let it cool, then when you pour it over your hair will be super soft and shiny, and it was.
I
Yeah.
remember that too.
Yeah.
No kidding. Yeah.
I don't know, not so clear on the boil part, but
Right.
we might have just been heating it up. But I definitely remember collecting the rainwater and pouring it over our hair. And there was something about, I don't know if it was maybe mental or whatever, but it smelled like rain, and pouring it over your hair, and then our hair felt so soft after. I
Yeah,
wonder what that would be.
I know the
though.
boiling because I remember it was still hot when I poured
Was
it
it
over my
still
hair.
Well, when I
Did you do
was
that?
about 8 or 9,
Yeah.
we really had nothing. We had no makeup. We had no cologne. We had nothing. But there were roses all over the neighborhood. So I would go pick up all the rose petals and put them in a jar. And when the jar was full, I'd pour water in. And then I'd put it in a dark place under the cupboard and keep it there for about a week. And then when I took it out, it smelled like rose water. And I used to put it behind my ears.
I tried that once and it didn't work.
Well, you have to leave it in the dark for quite a while.
Oh.
And who knows what it smelled like? I mean, it might have been horrible, but to me it smelled like heaven because I made it myself. You know.
And it was all you had.
Yeah. Well, we didn't have any toys or nothing, so. Well, I remember once my mom got this huge ball of string, and she left and went someplace, and my brother and I drew the string from the chair to the table, to the couch, to the other table, to the other couch. When my mother got back, she couldn't move. Everything was tight.
That's very, very, very creative.
It is
They did
creative.
at the kids' preschool. They would give them
They did?
big balls of string and let them tie up the classroom because it's a very hands-on pattern
And also, we got to do it around the playground.
around the
Wow.
floor.
I didn't know that
And
was
they would
so
even do
creative.
that with what else? Not only yarn, but what else? Or the masking tape. They would get these rolls of the colored masking tape, and as a matter of fact, one year for Christmas, every kid got a colored roll of masking tape. That was their Christmas present. And the whole idea was that they were supposed to go home and tape up their house, you know, just for fun. But it's a very creative,
No kidding.
logical, manipulative.
She was not allowed to pick him up
Oh.
when my mother was there.
Right. Oh, he is going to try to. No,
Oh,
this
he's gotta-
scares me. He's going to try to do the ground wire for the hot tub.
I hope he's okay.
And we're like, well, shouldn't you just hire an electrician? He's like, I got all the stuff to do it. It's like, yeah, isn't that like a 50-year-old building? Why don't you? So I guess in a way you should not feel too bad. Remember what we were talking about with when she wanted you to come in the final days? She never came out for us.
But you know what? I wouldn't have minded her
Telling you what to do.
taking care like that, because that's exactly how I did it. You slept for 4 hours, and then I fed you, and then you slept for 4 hours, and I fed you, and then I fed you just before 11, and you slept through the night until 4 or 5 in the morning.
And I did that because you helped me do it, or you trained me that way?
I don't know. You would sleep like a log. So obviously I wouldn't wake you, and then after 4 hours you would wake up, I'd feed you, give you your bath. You know, I mean, I had everything organized, and you were very cooperative when you were newborn. Except you did not want a nurse. Oh, that hurt my feelings.
I'm sorry.
I have a conversation.
Well, you were talking about your mom coming to help Aunt Christina and Kurt, and
Well, it
Uncle
really
Chris,
helped.
and I just thought
hurt
that
my
was cool.
feelings because, you know, when I wanted her to come to help me, I had no help.
Exactly.
Because Richard was so helpless.
Right. You had no family, relatives, or anybody. What about your aunt?
Well, neither did Christina. But that's beside the point. I had a mother,
Right.
you know,
Right.
and she had the money to come, and she chose not to.
What did she say, though?
No,
No, I can't. I'm sorry, I can't go.
sorry, I can't go. And so that's another time she dumped on me. I forgot all about that. But Charlie is so funny.
All right, and then did you ask her to come when Nadine was born?
Again, yes. And she came the year after again.
In other words, she waits a year and then she comes? Not right when the baby's born.
Well, what happened is you were born, and then the year after that, when you were like 8, 9 months old, Richard and I took you to Germany, so she didn't come.
Oh.
And I think during that time we probably got pregnant. Never even thought about that. But we went to Paris, and my mother babysat for you, and she had a great time.
Really?
And 2 great grandmothers came to visit.
Yeah, there's all kinds of wild pictures.
Pretty
That's kinda
pictures. And they used to hold the stroller, one here and one there. One was little and shrinkled up like a prune.
What, they used to push it together?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Great grandbaby? Wow, I'm glad you took all those pictures.
Yeah. They were cute little ladies.
And see, all those women had kids earlier in life than we do now, right?
Not Oma Mantwurf. No, Oma Mantwurf had only one child, which was my mother. And she was 30 when she had her.
That's the wrinkled up one.
And my father's mother,
That's the blonde
her
one.
name was Clara, but it was white hair, what you said. Yeah, she had 4 children. And I really don't know how young she was when she had her first one. I have no idea. But she had, my father was the oldest. And then she had a boy whose name was Helmut. Both of those got killed in the war. Then she had my Aunt Erna. Someplace is a picture of that whole family. I have no idea who has it. But that's a good picture. My grandmother, my grandfather, and those 4 children.
Oh, really?
They had gorgeous children. I mean, my father was like... Well, you see the picture.
And his father was the one that was the instructor at the symphony or something?
No, that was his... it turned out to be his brother Eric. Erich. He was the youngest. And he became... see what happened? My grandfather was a natural musician. That was not his job. He was right next under the mayor. He had a really good job under the mayor of the city, of this big city. And they had a gorgeous apartment. They had maids. And they had everything they wanted. And he was a musician. I think he played the piano. And he taught all his children single-handedly an instrument. My aunt played the piano. I don't know what he played. Maybe he played the violin. I'm not sure. I know my aunt played the piano. My father played the
clarinet, and the saxophone. And my Uncle Eric turned out to play the violin, and there was some other instrument in there. And my grandmother never did anything. She just was a
videotape one? She's the one that took videos.
She's the one who just sat there and clapped, you know, which is a role I always had.
Oh.
But she was a lot like me. I think I'm most like her. She was very sweet, very generous, very funny, just to make me laugh. And she always sent me money.
And which Oma did you call? Oma what?
Oma Laya.
So there was 4 kids?
Yeah.
And 3 died in the war?
2. And my aunt's husband died in the war too. So they lost 3 boys. And when my aunt found out that her husband got killed too, she locked herself in her room. And when she came, she lost the baby while she was in the room.
What?
Well, she miscarried.
How many months pregnant was she?
I don't know. And her hair was totally white. Never went back to brown. She was that unhappy.
Was that possible? Wow.
Yeah. She lost 2 brothers, a husband and a baby. That was too much. All in the same year.
Didn't she have another brother that...
Yeah, and then she was Aunt Erna, and the young boy was Erich.
Oh, and he was too young for them?
He was too young for the army, thank God. And so he's the one who really liked the violin, and he became a professor of music at the University of Frankfurt. Can you imagine?
Erich Lyer, right?
Well, he's probably dead now. I don't know. I lost control. I lost contact. But can you imagine what that man did? And my father was a musician too. My father's main occupation was marketing and sales.
Your father?
My father.
I never knew this.
He sold hardware. He was in hardware.
Like tools?
Yeah, tools and nowadays it would be what I did, meters, but they didn't have meters then, you know. So, but he was outside sales. He was very handsome, just like your son, and very charming.
Like my son.
Like your son.
But not a liar.
Sell anybody the
But he wasn't a
pencil.
liar, right? Oh no, he was a liar.
He was a liar.
Did he lie though? No.
I don't know. Probably did if he was a salesman. But anyhow, his main love was music. So every Saturday and Sunday, or maybe Friday night, I don't know which nights, he would be at one of the most famous dance cabaret in Breslau and play the saxophone and the clarinet.
Oh, he played both? Wow.
And, you know, he used to wear his tuxedo. I mean, it was a fancy place.
And this is how your mom met him, or?
Oh no, my mother knew him since she was 16.
They met at school, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they met in stenography school.
Yeah.
And she met Paul there too, her second
Yeah.
husband. So they were like a big group of people that were friends. Similar to what John and Nadine have with these people. And so anyhow, he used to play that and all. My mother used to go with her girlfriends to watch him. By that time, I think they were already engaged or married, I'm not sure. But I know after he passed away, she went through his tuxedo and she found his wedding band in his pocket. And it made her feel really bad. She said sooner or later he would have cheated on me too.
Are you serious?
We discussed this and she said, all men cheat. And I said, no. Yes. I said, well, how about Fatih? Boring, nothing Fatih. She said, he cheated on me. And she told me. He was already like in his 50s
But
or
anyhow,
something.
So why does Perry seem...
Yeah, my mother and father had quite a love story. They met each other when they were 16, and she was crazy about him. And he was crazy about her. So they were one of these young love things, you know. And so by the time they were married, in their early 20s, and then And the war was on, and they would only see each other like every couple of weeks because he was in the armed forces. And so, you know, it was pretty romantic. And the doctor had told her she can't get pregnant. You know, in those days you kind of went by hook or by crook. You didn't have
She had a
pills.
tilted uterus.
That's what he said. The doctor said to her, "You have a tilted uterus. No, so now you can't get
So which
pregnant."
way did it tilt? Because they say
I have
mine
no
tilts.
idea.
Well, mine tilts.
Well, you obviously can't get pregnant because that's how I'm here. You know? So
Yeah.
then, and so then, something else happened. She still had the tilted uterus after she gave birth.
I think it
to him.
tilts backwards. It
And
tilts
then something
back
else. Who
towards the
cares?
colon.
Something else happened. Oh, one of her fallopian tubes got blocked.
Wow.
So now the doctor said, "Now you definitely can't get pregnant." And that's how my brother happened. And you know, my mother in her right mind would have never had any kids during the war. So she ends up stuck with these two babies, with a husband dead. I mean, that was, without a doubt, the worst thing you can picture a woman going through.
Yeah.
Here she's in love with this man and he's dead.
I bet
and-
everybody was so sad all the time. I remember when her and I used to sit back out on the back patio and smoke cigarettes together, right? Now I look back on that thinking, boy, was I crazy. But I asked her questions about the war. Of course, we didn't have videotapes back then. I wish I had done tape recordings, if anything. Because she was, I mean, an adult going through this stuff. But I remember her saying, yes, everybody was so sad, you know, having to go through all of that. A lot of sadness.
And the Russians were trying to harass the German people, German women. And they were coming in. It was horrible for them.
Yeah.
So, my mother made it through all that, but her heart never was the same. And then the death blow was given by Paul, and she married him. Didn't turn out to be the way she pictured. Now there was a case where,
She would have been better off single.
oh my
financially.
God, in every way. Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
But there was a way where she tried to help him,
Right.
which is always a mistake. You should always take care of yourself and your kids first. Let him take care of himself.
Right.
She tried to help him, and they got married, and he kept saying, "Oh, don't worry." Lisbeth said, "Don't worry about the children. You won't have to pay anything." So as soon as they were married, she had a lawyer, and all the money that my brother and I got from the government went to those 3 children. And my mother had lost her pension because she remarried, because she got a pension as a war widow. Germany really takes good care of people. And
Yeah, well, not in this case.
what, in my mother's case? Well, she remarried.
Right.
You're not supposed to remarry. If you're not a war widow anymore, then your wife.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, you lose that.
Well, she could have just, I guess it wasn't stylish back then to just live together, huh?
Oh, you had to, in order for him to move in, they had to show a marriage license, the whole thing. In Germany, they were very stoic about that.
Yeah.
But then, as soon as they lost all their money, the woman started writing hateful letters, how my mother stole her husband, and when the kids came to visit, they said really mean things to my mother. Made it sound like she was some sort of bad woman. And it just broke my mother's heart. Because we had it made. The 3 of us just got along so well. My mother was happy when she was just with me and my brother. Then she had that man. And he always would hold the woman above her. You know, if we were bad or anything, and my mother didn't handle it the way he thought we would, she should, he would say, well, Lisbeth wouldn't do it that way. Lisbeth would do it much better. Even though the woman was, you know what, card carrying.
Yeah.
You didn't know that, did you?
I think I kind of did.
So was her daughter.
Really?
My father had some real prime women in his life.
Oh, wow, that was his real daughter?
Mhm.
Weird. What happened to those people now? Like,
Well, the woman died of cancer of the womb, and I don't know what happened to the girl.
oh, wow.
She was my age, so I have no idea. Girl, she's now an old lady. But the wife died of cancer of the womb, which is what she deserved.
What about when you and Uncle Chris came to New York? Or you came to, you went to New York first and then he came, what, a year later?
2 years later. Well,
Was that kind of fun?
when he came or when I came?
When, either. Actually, when you came. How did you feel when you came?
Very excited. Very excited. And
The big city, huh?
taking it all in, I couldn't believe it. It was
What was the name of the boat again that you...
Startendam. Did I tell you the story how Neva and I had lunch last time I went there?
Yeah. That was not too long ago, right? Like 9 months ago?
Yeah, last year. I'm sitting there facing the ocean. She gave me the better seat so I could see the ocean. That's the first thing we would do, is go to Anthony's fish grotto and have lunch. And we're sitting there eating, and she looks up and she says, Statendam. I said, what? Oh, that boat over there, it says Statendam. I said, you're kidding! I jump up, oh my God, this is the boat I came over with. Everybody around us, this old lady's having a heart attack. Oh, so funny. Oh, Neva, I was on the maiden voyage of this boat in 1957. And now I see it again. I wanted to go touch it, and they wouldn't let us get on there.
Oh, you guys went to go look at it?
We wanted to. I told the guy, I said, look, we're 2 old ladies, we'll leave our purses with you. I came on the maiden voyage of the ship over the United States. I would just like to just get on one deck, just to say, just to touch it.
Aww.
But anyhow, it was fun that we got to see it. And she got a big, huge kick out of it.
That is cool.
Yeah, it was very cool.
And you got seasick on that boat, huh?
Well, everybody did.
What kind of a cabin did you have? Did it have a view?
Oh, a D cabin, like underwater. We didn't
So
have
there was no
any-
view?
No view. We didn't have any light or
No
anything.
window. Oh.
Well, it was only $150.
Right.
I mean.
But there
what
was
do you
probably
expect?
cabins with windows, right?
Oh yeah, my friend Ursula, she paid for her own ticket and she had a beautiful cabin.
You saw her cabin?
Yeah.
How did you guys meet on the boat? Just
We were sitting at the same dining room table.
Oh my goodness! And you guys still, to this day, know
We
each
talk,
other, right?
yeah. We still talk. We haven't seen each other since you were about 3.
Did you ever tell her that you saw the ship in San Diego?
Oh no, I never did.
Where
You're
does she
right.
live?
In Wisconsin.
Man, you should get in
But
contact.
her
with
husband died, and it turns out that between the 3 of us, I think I was friends with him. Because he would call me every year. Hi, Gertie, how are you doing? Oh, he was such a sweetie.
So they came over together, or she met him in New York?
No, she knew him already when she came here.
Mm.
And he always used to call me every year, talk to me for like an hour, and then he'd say, oh, here's Urs. And Ursula would get on.
And he's German or no?
No, he was German descended.
Mm.
He spoke fluent German, and supported her. She doesn't even know I'm sick. Wow. Should call her. Her husband died of cancer.
The guy that you were talking about? What was his name?
Bill. Bill Volm.
So did she live in New York as well, and you guys stayed friends
Yes,
there?
we landed in New York, and I was kind of scared because I had never seen these 2 people I was going to live with.
Uh-huh.
And I was now supposed to speak English, which I had 6 years in school, but still, I've never said a straight English sentence.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very hard for me.
Mm-hmm.
My uncle spoke fluent German, but my Aunt Cindy didn't understand a word of German.
Mm-hmm.
She was Swedish and English, so. it was
And
hard.
how are you related to this uncle that you came to live with?
Oh, he's my father's uncle.
Mm.
And the reason why they wanted to adopt me when I was 7,
Mm-hmm.
but at that time my mother wasn't married yet, and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to leave her. So
Mm-hmm.
I didn't decide
And what
to
was your
go.
first job?
File clerk in an office. File clerk in Western Electric, which
Oh,
was
that was the
part
very
of
first job you ever got?
AT&T, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's where you met Dad?
Yeah.
And did you work your way up, right? To secretary or something?
No, I didn't get very high. I was the best typist they had, and I was the sexiest receptionist there. But I never really... I did not want to be a private secretary because I wasn't good at steno. I don't have a very good memory for blips and things, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't do it. And my typing was pretty erratic, but
You're talking about shorthand, right?
yeah,
Is that called steno?
stenography, yeah. Yeah, in those days we didn't have tape recorders and stuff, so
Mm-hmm.
you had to sit there with your legs crossed and have the guy look up your skirt while you're taking dictation. I hated the idea. So I wanted to be some sort of office manager, and the woman who was my boss didn't like me. And she worked against me all the way. So,
And how long did you work at that company?
57, 58, 59, 60, 61, until you were born. Well, until I was 7 months pregnant, then I stopped working.
Was everybody in the office like really excited when you and Dad got married? Because you guys worked in the same company, right?
Yeah, they were excited. The girls gave me a shower.
How fun.
Yeah. We didn't have a big wedding because Grandma Mita decided she wasn't going to sign, and he wasn't 21 yet. So, better be careful when I break this glass. So we just went. My mother came from Germany, and we just took the train to Charleston, South Carolina. That was the only place where you didn't have to be 21 to get married. So we went to Charleston, South Carolina, which was quite an experience, especially since it was in the middle of the summer and very, very humid. But we had a nice time. He even carried me up that cheap hotel's flight of stairs. It was so cute.
Oh. Wow.
And then
So your brother came after you were married or before? After, right?
No, he came before.
Oh, so he wasn't at the wedding?
No, he was already in California.
Oh. How long did you stay in New York?
He? Well, he came in 1959. And
So what did he do? Call you up and say, I want to come to the U.S.? Or
well, he wrote me a letter. I don't remember.
did you sponsor him?
Oh. I sponsored him, and he came, and he immediately got himself a job. He had learned how to be body and fenderman.
He learned that in Germany?
And that was very highly valued. He started working at the Volkswagen Works because he was trained for Volkswagen, and so he was doing well from the very beginning.
Wow.
Yeah. Didn't
That's
speak
awesome.
any English. But
Really? He didn't study like you did?
No, he didn't go to high school.
He didn't go to high school?
My mother asked him what he would like to do, and he told her. And so she put him in a trade school. And he became a body and fenderman. He learned how to paint cars and stuff.
Wow.
Well, in Germany they say you don't have to go to college, but you have to have a trade. You don't get away with doing nothing.
And you went to actual college in Germany?
Yeah. Because I was judged gifted.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
Wow, so they tested you? How old were you when they tested you?
Well, I was 11. When there wasn't a good school supposedly where my mother lived, where my parents lived. And so there was a really good, like a charter school, you know what that is? Where my grandparents lived. So my mother said, well, I think she's been trying to get rid of me for quite a while by that time. She said, well, you can be with your grandparents, even though they only had a one-bedroom apartment, and, go to that school and really, really study. And then at the end of that, they have a big test. And then if you pass that test really high, you get to go to a special charter school, and it's free.
So I went there, and they were way ahead of in math from where I was in my school. And that made it really hard, because my grandparents didn't know nothing. My grandmother knew how to sew dresses. My grandfather knew how to drink booze. No, actually, I'm sure he did. He owned a bar for a while, and he was the manager of a zoo. I mean, he wasn't really a drunk or anything. But, so I lived with these two ancient people, which really were ancient. I mean, they were like 69, 70.
When you went to the U.S.?
When I moved in with them when I was 11.
Oh, yeah, because it was your grandfather's age. Because it was your grandfather's brother.
Yeah.
It was your dad?
No, this is not America, this is Germany.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're now when I'm 11
Oh, okay.
and being judge gifted. So
Oh, okay.
anyhow, I went to that school for like a year, and it was harder and harder and harder. But I had a girlfriend who had a very smart father, poor guy. When he would come home from work, I'd be sitting there on the front stoop with my math book in my hand. He couldn't even eat dinner before he had to help me with my homework. But he helped me well. And I was an excellent writer. Did really well in, writing stories and all that. And I guess I was smart all around, because when they finally gave us the test, it was a test that lasted a week. And they had like 500 children.
Wow.
In the whole area, and I came out second.
Wow.
Even though I had such handicaps. So, in the meantime, my mother found out that there was a school close to her home, because I was a war orphan, and because I was judge gifted, I could go for nothing. All I had to do is pay for the books, which turned out to be a major thing, because we didn't have any money. So,
Wow.
we used to buy used books and just go through a lot of trouble. I'm sure there would have been places where we could have gotten financial help with the books, but my mother was not Nadine. Nadine would have gotten books for free. So anyhow.
You're funny.
Yeah. So I came back to Germany, and I went to school with nuns. I came back to my mother's house, and I was 12, and went to school with nuns.
Wow.
It was St. Ursula.
Wow.
And it was a great school, only girls, private school.
Protestants upstairs, Catholics downstairs?
Not that one, no, not that one. This was just Catholic.
Oh.
But when they had religious training, we had time off. And when we had religious training, it usually was like after hours or something. But they were very polite to us, and we were very polite to them. There never was, because these were all really fine girls. There was not a
You
single...
think that school's still there?
It is there, but it's now co-ed. And now they have, it used to be, this would be acceptable. But if the sleeve would be like that, it wouldn't be acceptable. It would have to be a capped sleeve. And the skirt had to be this much below the knee. And you had to wear Barbie socks and sneakers. And there were certain rules and regulations about the way you dressed. When you saw a nun in the hallway when you were little, you had to curtsy. So it was kind of hard, because you're walking upstairs and you see 3 nuns. Curtsy 3 times, And then later on, as we got older, then we got to nod. Good morning, sister. Good morning, sister. I just loved it. I thought it was cool.
And how do you say that? Guten Morgen,
Guten Morgen, Schwester. Usually we would say her name too.
Right.
But I really liked the nuns. The nuns were cool. And I know that they say a lot of bad things about nuns. I've never seen anything mean about a nun. They were all loving, kind, sweet, caring, just really sweet. And I came to this country, and nuns, they hit you with what kind of nuns do you have here? They hit children. It's really mean. But anyhow, where were we before?
So we were before that you were in New York, and your brother wanted to come visit.
Oh yeah, not visit.
live.
He wanted to come and live.
Right.
And
So
my
did you
mother
start
didn't-
working in New York or no?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, I came to New York in 1957, And I got I probably told you all that already in the other videos. But now you get it with this hairstyle, so I guess it's a lot better. So, my brother, yeah, I worked in New York, got a really nice job, and I got an apartment with Ursula.
Oh, you guys met on the boat and then got an
Yeah,
apartment together.
yeah. Well, we used
So
to
she
be
was
like,
living all by herself?
Yeah.
I
Well,
thought she
she
lived
had
with your aunt and uncle, though.
me. I had an aunt and uncle. But she had 2 male friends that also worked for Chase Manhattan Bank. She worked for Chase Manhattan Bank. She had a good job, so she had some money saved and stuff. And she had been here before in New York. So when I would see her, she would take me all over town. She introduced me to banana splits. And, we would walk arm in arm. And people would stare at us, and she said, well, we better not do that. They're going to think we're weird. And I said, how can they think we're weird? Because I didn't know anything about lesbians.
Oh, you didn't know what that was?
No. When I first had the apartment with her, we had a double bed and we used to spoon.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the difference?
It's no different.
I didn't know.
Right.
And I wasn't attracted to her and she wasn't attracted to me, so we were just like the best of friends.
Yeah. But wait, I thought you lived with your aunt and uncle, though.
Well, I lived with them for about a half a year.
Oh.
And then we found the apartment and we left. My aunt and uncle were very much for it because they knew that I should be on my own. Plus I was sleeping on their pull-out couch. They had a 1-bedroom apartment too. So they
And you were 17?
they helped me.
You were 17?
18 by then. They helped me. They had a country house by the lake. And Ursula and I used to go out there and swim in the lake. And we used to wash their car. And they used to play pinochle and speak Swedish. It was funny. They had lots of friends. And so then Ursula and I looked for an apartment and found a really nice one. And they gave us most of the furniture we had. They gave us because they had all these different houses. It wasn't fancy, but it was funky. So they had beds and couches and pillows and tables and chairs that they gave us. So we had a cute little apartment fixed up.
That's awesome.
I think.
No, it's good.
I don't want to
you're
talk
done.
anymore.
Okay, bye.
We can talk a little later.
Okay. Run, Amanda, run!
Well, Nadine, when I'm on my ride, I snore.
What?
Hello, pretty Nadine.
Hi, pretty one.
Now he's set free. Look at him go. Go, 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 go.
If you run, he'll follow you.
The dog's nuts.
Hold it.
I think you should. It's up.
Woohoo! Where is it?
Run that way.
Did it go down?
He doesn't know.
Oh, there it is.
Wilson, go! Wilson! Tell him no!
God, that dog is a pain in the ass. Run away, Wilson.
You are so funny.
Nadine and I want him to run away.
I was about ready today.
To the car.
Look how she skips. She was so cute today skipping. I'm like, I want to skip, and I tried skipping, and boy, is that a workout. I said I haven't skipped in like 30 years,
Wow.
maybe 35 years.
Did you want to take her shopping?
Yeah, I might do it after dinner. I want to cut your hair first, though. Hello, elegant woman.
Hello?
Deal maker.
Closing the bargain?
Yeah, here's the deal maker. Woohoo, future millionaire.
You know, the good thing is that we reduced our monthly outflow from
Oh, yeah.
$4,200
Yeah.
a month to like $29.95 a month.
Woo, congratulations. Sorry, I got that on film.
That's pretty good. And then the other thing,
Do I need to hold it? I got lots of video of her doing this.
did you?
Yeah.
Let her go more.
Unleash
He
the
is.
string. Oh, okay.
You know how it is.
Wow.
Since he has to win.
Every tree,
Higher than the houses. And the trees, isn't it?
even the big tall trees.
You would not believe this, you guys.
How was school,
there
Ian?
At the closing with us,
Yeah.
and
He behaved.
I bought him a Lego knight.
Yeah.
You know that he's built 3 or 4 of them before, but he's always built them with help. This one, I just bought him the Lego knight, and he sat there and built the whole Lego knight.
Wow.
Get it from the car and show Anthony what you built all by yourself. All by himself. He just built. He sat there quietly. And built the
Wow.
whole Lego
Were they
knight
impressed?
By himself. Well, and the lady. Of course, the lady didn't know he'd already built it. You know, built one of those like 4 times before, so he knew how to do it.
Right.
But so to her, he just sat there, dumped out all the pieces, and put this thing together in about half an hour. And she was like, because she has a grandson. I felt like telling her, don't expect her grandson to be able to do this because
So you told her he did it before?
I said yeah, he's done this 3 or 4 times before,
okay.
but still, he's 3.
Yeah.
And he put that whole thing together all by himself.
Oh, look at those two.
Do you want to go get it from the car and show Anthony's?
Okay.
Okay, I'll give you the key.
You know the dog is gone.
The dog is gone. Well, you
Here,
told him
where's
to
the
run
unlock
away.
button?
Yeah, I
Okay,
told him
this
to
one?
run away.
Yeah.
Listens to Grandma.
You sure you don't want a hat or something?
No.
Well, Corey told me today that he likes it a lot better out here than the other house because there's so much room to run. And this is what boys need at this age, so this is perfect timing, I think. You know? Look at her go. Boy.
Yay, Corey.